Thank you for being here on my show, Elena. It's so good to see you.
It's such a pleasure to see you again. I
I
haven't
know.
seen you in a while, and you're always so exciting, Rain. You embark on wonderful adventures, and you're always growing. You really should realize that about yourself. It's just thrilling to see you unfold and to become what you're meant to be in the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. For those who are watching and listening, I have known Elena for at least 7 years now, because I
Yeah.
remember it's 2013 that I first reached out to you. So I've worked with Elena for, yeah, the last 7 years, especially the first few years. When I first knew what Akashic Records was, I found your name through the book, Love for No Reason, Marcy Shimoff book,
Yes.
because I was doing her program at that time. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And since then, I remember when I got in touch with you in 2013, I was working literally with you every month for a while,
Oh,
consistently, and Akashic Records has really guided me in so many ways and yeah, supporting me in my journey. You have been instrumental in my life, really
oh, well,
instrumental.
thank you. I am grateful, and I mean it.
Oh, I am grateful. I'm so honored to have you on our show today to talk about what Akashic Records is for those who aren't aware of it or want to know more about it. And for those who are watching as well, I just want to also talk about, Elena is a founding member and managing partner of Akashic Records Consultants International. She's also written a book. I want her to talk a little bit more about her book shortly, so I won't go into it. So she's been on many, many different shows. Just was talking just before we started on this show, some of the shows that she's gone on to. So I'm really excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here again. It's wonderful.
Thank you. So, Elena, could you just briefly, describe what Akashic Records is for those who are watching and listening?
You know, a very simple definition of the Akashic Records that once appeared, it was actually in a review that I received, is the archive of all being. And that was it, the archive of all being. So if you look at the word being, what can really jump out about that is that it's not, the emphasis is on an inner state of your essence. Your essence is in a state of being, it's not in doing. So when we work with the Akashic Record, there's a definition, an old definition. The Akashic Record is of such exquisite fineness that even in ether, anywhere in the cosmos, registers an indelible impression in it. So that's the general Akashic Record. Now, what on earth does that mean? It means it's extremely subtle. Scientists now said it's the primordial unified field, the one. It is the place, the Akasha, in the Akashic Record, is the place where the essence is infused in form. Essence infused in form. So essence is the most minute, subtle, basic vibration. And when we talk about a particular person's Akashic Record, we're talking about the essence of their soul, that vibration that goes into form, that is created through the soul, and then into the personality. So we're talking about very subtle things that are deeply internal. Now that's an important point about the work. Our focus is internal. It's not necessarily about what's going to happen next. It's about the inner workings that go on inside of you to create, to become a co-creator with spirit. Another concept that we use is the concept of grace. When we talk about grace, it's a form of unconditional love. And we are able, through working in the records and working with prayer and grace points to lift or shift patterns and give them over and just receive of the unconditional love that exists. It's the essence of grace. So unconditional love is very key in my lineage with the Akashic Records. When we talk, one more thing, when we talk about the Akashic Records, we're also talking about the soul's journey since inception and the everything, the events, the emotions, the mental, the physical expressions from the soul level. So we're looking at all of that. Plus, we are able to create from the Akashic Records. An example is an artist who opens their Akashic Records and then paints, or my sister creates mandalas for people from the Akashic Records. So these are representations of that flow of energy, that essence flow of energy.
Wow, I myself am taking notes. Despite I've done all this, So I love what you say, essence infused in form, and you mentioned too the soul's journey. So just for those who are again watching the show, so does it mean that we can tap into the entire journey of the soul from possibly past life, what might potentially happen? If you could touch a little bit about that. And also, what's the difference? I get this question quite often when people come to me and say, oh, what's the difference between Akashic Records and psychic reading and fortune telling or other divination modality? So I have my own version, but I would love to hear your version of it.
So the Akashic Records is a certain frequency or resonance or frequency that runs through all the other ones. When we teach a class, our focus is to have people identify when they're aligned with that energy and resonance and when they're not. The difference is that we're working with your inner quality of mind and soul and heart. The energy for the Akashic Records, the awareness is in the heart, even though other energy systems are involved. In the Akashic Records, the crown extends, and we support this. We use a prayer, a sacred prayer, to align us with the resonance of the Akashic Records. We have the extension of the crown, and it's held in the heart. The psychic center is still. It's in stillness, and so as our awareness is in the heart, then it spreads out in what we would call anchors in the physical. In other words, it moves through the heart, and as we breathe, it's going to come through us. And we are surrounded, we call it a pillar of light, and we're surrounded in that. And it's important, here's an important concept in the lineage I represent. It's the stillness. We're not looking for answers. We're holding the energy. That's our first focus. I am holding this energy. The qualities of the energy are they're filled with light, it's filled with love, but your neutrality and stillness moving deeper really will affect the quality of the results. And we work with your questions. The questions direct the intention and the focus in the Akashic Record. The Akashic Record is very vast and it's holographic. It is not linear. In other words, you're in this field, an interdimensional kind of field, very vast, and you ask a question to focus. What will be brought forward may be all different types of responses depending on what you're ready to deal with or receive at that time. That's very different than a psychic reading. A psychic reading, incidentally, not all psychic readings. There are certainly psychics who work in different ways. But in certain focuses in some psychic readings, it's about what will happen to me. If I make this choice, what will happen? What did he say? What are they doing? What do you think? What do you think's going to happen? What is he thinking? That's a big. What is they thinking? What is my mother thinking? You know, this kind of thing. That's not what we're looking at here. It's who am I? What is my way of dealing? What pattern am I holding that might veil or cloak my options in responding? And can it be shifted? Can it be lifted? What am I really, where can I hold in peace, deeper peace? So we reference to peace and unconditional love a lot. That is brought forward early on, even in a consultation. There are great benefits because you may see things one way now, you may be uplifted and see things a completely different way. And through working in the Akashic Record, whatever information is brought forward, then you have different choices and you may walk in a different path after that point. So those are some of the differences that we often look at.
So thank you. Yeah, I like you mentioned, you know, what Akashic Records has done is just open up a lot more what I myself couldn't see, and also allowing me to choose. Yeah, it's been a huge guide in my own life myself, and I want to move into talking about how can one learn shortly. But before that, you mentioned a couple of times too in your lineage, are there different form of Akashic Records out there so that people who are listening, you know, they get a sense of that? If you could just explain a little bit more.
So I am a direct student of someone who passed named Mary Parker. I've been doing this since 1990, so I'm an old timer with it. I was fortunate to work directly with her and have her come to my house, and many times I went to her house in Odessa, Texas. And I went with my sister. My sister had like a balancing energy to mine in the beginning. So she said to us, you girls travel together. And if you have anything between you, get rid of it, work it through now so you can balance each other. And it was a wonderful thing. That was done very early on, and it was done in great love. So I really enjoy working with her a lot. And the lineage that we follow is based on creating from the light. And you know, while we were talking, I had a few things I was going to read, but this is what comes up again, especially during these times. She has a little booklet Mary Parker has a booklet that she wrote. And it's available from our main home office. It's called A New Beginning from an Ancient Source, My Journey into the Akashic Record. And it talks about her original teacher and what she received on him. He was originally a Spanish nobleman who moved to Mexico. He was very colorful and passed away some time ago. There's a point made in the story, and I don't want to go through the whole story. And he meets a Mayan woman, and she takes him into the pyramids in South America. And he starts to actually panic. He thinks, here's this old woman taking me in. What if something happens to her? And he drops into fear. And the Mayan woman says to him, you must release all of your fear. It is of the darkness, not of you. Remember the sun and its light as we came here. Everything is as it was in the light, said the woman. Nothing has changed here, she continued. You are a creator and you created the fear. Learn to create from the light. Do not allow your creations to add to the darkness in our world. Remember, always create from the light, and then all that exists around you will dwell in light. Now that is a key part of my lineage. To be so at peace, to move in that direction and still. and let yourself be guided. There are masters of the Akashic Records. There are lords who guide us, and they're highly refined consciousnesses as we enter. And allow that to happen. So we are a lineage that works with the light and focuses on that and is open to receive that. And many times I've gotten people who say, don't worry. I can take it. I can take the worst. Tell me the reading. Give it to me. You know, and I'm thinking, boy, they're sure going to be surprised because that's not even going to be in there. You know, so what unfolds is their purity, the purity of the essence, the pure, authentic soul, which is created out of divine love. So the pathway is to move towards divine love and to find that inner divinity within oneself that is really connected to it. That's the lineage I represent. And that's what ARCI represents, Akashic Record Consultants International. I'm one of the 4 founding partners of it.
Thank you for explaining that. If someone who wants to take a session, a consultation session, right? First of all, what do they need to prepare? And if you could just explain what happens during a session so that they get a sense of if they choose to experience Akashic Records session, you know, how is it like? Like if you could share some of that as well.
Basically, they can email me. And we set up a session. We work with your questions. It is your questions that directs the consciousness of the consultation. I give all the information that I get. That's the most important thing. Regarding the questions, those that are really heartfelt are the questions to ask, the real concerns. And there are times when you'll say, is that really your question? And it may not be really your question. Or I once had a person, I said, you're testing me. Are you testing me? He said, yeah. I was ready to say, forget it, but it's very hard to deal with when a person's testing, except that you know it. And so you want a sincerity present because the real person comes to the consultation. And what happens is the facade goes away. It drops. Because we're working with the authentic self. So moving into it, specific questions about patterns in your life are very good ones. Behaviors, very good. Close people. Life direction that you're working on. Talents that can be directed. Areas of inspiration, areas of resistance. Those are some of the good ones. Health often comes up. So what is the body telling me? Where you're holding things in your body, and to really look at that. And also, what are you creating from? This is very important. This comes up early on. And these are areas I am constantly checking on too in myself. Are we creating from a wounded child place, a fear place? If we can change that and create from the positive reference point, that makes a huge difference in our life direction and what manifests.
And how long does the session typically takes for someone? And what do they walk away with?
The minimal, the basic is an hour. It can last an hour and a half for a lot of people. I have clients who are 2 hours that I've worked with for a time. Some people do go longer. When I originally started, years ago, they were very long sessions, but now things have organized different, and people come in with more spiritual awareness by and large. So the energy moves faster, and we just move faster. So usually they're not more than a couple of hours. That would be a longer one. The client can come away with a real shift or understanding that they can create in a different way or a different outlook on their life. Because once we realize we're creating from a fear or anxiousness or resistance, and that's gone, And in its place, we start to create from something positive. That changes everything. So you can come away with that, and you'll see patterns emerge that you don't need. You don't need them. And they may not even be yours. Things you've taken on, things that if you're highly empathic, you may have absorbed, and you can let that go and be in direct alignment with your inner divinity and the vaster divine. So that's something that really becomes apparent from the Akashic Records.
And for someone, how frequent do you think, do you have a guideline how frequent for someone to do their sessions? I know someone who does astrology, she said that for astrology, once a year, it's good enough kind of to check in. For Akashic Records, how frequent? I know for myself, whenever I feel like there's something going on and I'm uncertain, I'll reach out to you very quickly. Elena, I want to just kind of tap into this, what's happening, what's going on, and then we move into the session. And one thing that just kind of popped into my mind too, I know some of the readings that Zach has done too, and it's guided us a lot. We were just talking a while ago, you shared in one of his reading about, you saw a lot of, he was going to be working with a lot of people in Asia, and that kind of came to pass, right? But it guided us into, okay, maybe that's the direction to focus and all that. So, that's how I kind of reach out. But I think for those who are watching and listening, if you could just support.
Okay, so there's a basic once a year too with ours. We start that way. However, what we're finding in the more recent years is there are people who will say, oh my goodness, I forgot a whole session. A whole section I didn't ask you, or I want you to walk, they'll call another time. I have a client who said, no, let's walk through it now. Let's do the grace now, and they'll call me back. I have some who are like that. The idea here is to allow the energy to integrate with your energy. Sometimes that'll be faster, and sometimes it can take a long time. I have had clients call me back 20 years later. I had one person who had something happen and called me back 20 years later. One person called me back 10 years later. But then there will be people who will call much more. So it's basically a year to a half a year. But what we have, remember when I first started, there was no coaching. That word didn't even exist except for sports teams. There was no such thing. So someone may call and say, what was that grace for? Okay, and I need the prayer and what. So we do a little bit more. But basically, the key is let the energy sink in and integrate with you. It's a little easier to record. When I first started recording, I basically refused to record on my own because I was so kind of aligned into the energy, I couldn't operate it, or the frequency would shift and things didn't work. Now all that's changed, so we can record more, people move in more. It's a little bit different. There's been an evolution in 30 years with people interested in this kind of thing. So basically we're talking, it can be once a year, but if there is a need, it can be more frequently.
And I know I myself have learned to open my own records from you, and also now learn to actually do sessions for people. And I've actually, myself and Zach have been doing it finally last year, learning from you. I would love for those who are interested, if they feel called to, that this is something that's in alignment with their spirit. And if you could just speak a bit about what's the expectation, I know we have level 1, level 2, several levels, duration, and a little bit of that, if you could share.
Yes, for we have a basic level 1, 2, 3, and 4 for people who are very serious about it. 1 can be a one-on-one, or it can be in a larger group. It is opening the Akashic Records of oneself, for oneself. 2 needs a group of people because you're opening the Akashic Records of other people. After 2, with a practice of 30 days, after 30 days, you may begin to open the Akashic Records of other people for yourself. You can say that you do it. And you may want to be doing that. That's fine for you. Level 3 involves ancestral lineage, past life, and creativity. 3 sections, basically. And that's for people, again, who want to go deeper. Level 4 involves how much of my life am I going to devote to doing this and what needs to be cleared out to make that happen. Now, after that point comes professional training, where you will be listed on the ARCI website. You will become more and more active, and you will be a certified consultant and a certified teacher. You can go on to teach after you have had the special training to do that. So we want to be really sure that the person is willing to dedicate themselves to this calling by the time they get into the certification program. So that's the basic training.
Thank you so much. I've done level 1 and 2, and I remember when we first started reading for other people, oh my God, we were blown away by what we were getting. And it's each person, and it's so different. It's just that I think while doing it, Zach and I talk about this, how it also opened us up so much because we got to see a lot more, and therefore it also, worked within us. That's what I felt when we were doing the consultation sessions for other people. So It has been a tremendous experience doing that. Yeah. I do want to go into your book a little bit before we end. So those who are watching, Elena wrote the book, The Principles of Dynamic Manifestation. And I know you talk about grace points just now and all that. Yeah. So if you could just share a bit about the book, what the book is about. And I know you talk about the grace points too in the book. So if you could share a bit about that as well.
Let me say, first of all, that the grace points were received by a man named Ed Comney, who traveled a great deal with my teacher, Mary Parker. And he worked for years in the records receiving these points, which they're like portals that open up to give over grace. It allows you to get clarity and then to clear with prayers. So it's a tremendous tool, and it's filled with divine love. It's the field of divine grace. Forgiveness is very important, and I just want to say forgiveness is not about right or wrong. It means I am willing to let go and let the divine handle it in a really meaningful way. I'm not going to run it through my patterns. That's too small. Any way I look at it, it's going to get colored by what happened before. So when I give it over to grace, I let go of that energy and I'm giving it to the infinite field, way beyond myself. So that's forgiveness, which grace is very tied into. Okay, so the book came through the Akashic Records. It's not about the Akashic Records. And what's been brought to my attention again lately about manifestation, it seems to be coming up a lot now, is that one basic principle of manifestation is that you can't ignore something that is abstractly reappearing. Meaning, if it's in your head or you have a feeling and you keep feeling it, you want to do something to anchor it in the physical, which I call the physical expression. Because there's an energy that keeps creating it or giving you that idea. If you do nothing, it's like a clogged drain. It's going to clog the drain of reception because you're not going to put it out, you're not going to create with it into the third dimension. So you want to get that out so that more can come in. It's an amazing quality of manifestation. You keep acting on it. You do not need to know where it's going. It can be ridiculous. You do not need to know where it's going to fit. Many people write books by starting the middle first or the end first, because and they don't know that's the end or the middle. It's not apparent. It's not in the awareness, the conscious awareness. So you want to really let that come through. Why? Here's another point. Because another place in the book is that there's something called the etheric template. I talk about it early in the book, and it's you might call it an infrastructure. It's a template that is around the physical. It also goes through the physical. It's in a higher frequency. It's the etheric plane, and it also runs into the other finer frequencies. And this template is a map or a chart of what's going to flow into the physical. Likewise, what's going to come out of the physical. And you can actually see it easily. If you have a plant and put the plant against a white wall, you'll see these emanations close to the leaves. You'll see something, and if you cut a leaf, you'll still see that until it's let go of. It's like the leaf is still there. This is part of the etheric template that will manifest into the more concrete. It's a principle of manifestation. Here's another way. You can take your hands, you might be able to see it here. And if you pull them apart slowly, you're going to see the etheric template. You'll see the aura, the close-in aura. Most people can see that. Let's see if we can do it. Yeah. If you pull it apart, you'll see some taffy like pulling. That's part of your etheric template. That's your auric, in your auric field, that map is there to manifest. So when you get information, the etheric template is something is being, might call it downloaded in modern times, a download of something happening. Now, so you want to do something about it, hold the energy in your heart. If it's just in your mind, then you have to get your ideas down, but then bring it back down to the heart, because your mind will start racing and racing, and it's going to stay mental. You want to bring it all the way through. Use mental, use the whole thing, and you can do anything with it. You can write it, draw it, cut out pictures about it, anything to make it real in this dimension. So that's a strong principle of manifestation. And you're bringing it into the physical. The force for that can be tremendous. And if you can't deny that force. And that's real manifestation. If you're holding it in your heart, it doesn't have to make sense. The sense will be revealed. It's a journey. It will be revealed. I also have, I have a variety of things you can do. And I have some stories. My stories are based on composites of people. They're not about one person. I fabricated that. But it's about myself and clients. So there's not one person who is mentioned in there. They're woven together. And there are several of those.
Thank you again for sharing that. And I love what you say. When you hold it in your heart, it doesn't have to make sense, and sense will come. I love that. Yeah, it totally is. You know, I know my mind sometimes gets in the way and it wants to make sense of stuff. And then, yeah, to be reminded, just stay in your heart, you know, and then just follow. And then the rest will fall in place. Elena, how can people, if they want to know more about your work or to work with you or also to learn about Akashic Records, how can they get in touch with you?
An email would be good at radiantcenter@yahoo.com. Radiant Center, RADIANTCENTER @yahoo.com. That's the way you can contact me. My website is dynamicmanifestation.com. www.dynamicmanifestation.com.
Thank you so much, Elena. And we will also be posting it in the video. Once again, and I myself feel I'm going through class again, you know, learning from you. It's just such a good reminder, some of these things. And I'm just, again, really honored to have you. You know, you've been a mentor, you've been a teacher, you've been just very supportive in my journey. And like I said in the beginning, instrumental. You know, I'll be having a session with you after this session because I'm
very excited.
Get things that I want to look at, you know, as especially me. I've just started this online show, and also I want to look into the records too. Once again, really excited and honored and privileged and blessed to have you with us today.
Thank you, and it's a blessing to work with you. And I know from your love and from your heart that there's so much success that's yours and such support coming to you. The more you open your heart and express your beautiful spirit, the greater the success to the world. You're an international person and an interdimensional person. So God bless you.
Oh, to hear that, to get that from you, it's such a blessing. Before we go, I do want to just say, if there's anything else you want the audience to know, you know, before we close the session today.
You know, given the state of what's going on in the world, I want to just reiterate, focus and create from the light. Then what's all around you will be in the light. The darkness is not of you. Just let it go and focus on the brilliance and the beauty of the light.
Oh, thank you. That's a great reminder for me too. All right. Once again, thank you for being on the show, Elena. And for those who are watching, we will see you on the next video.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.